This is the HeadRush Podcast with Paul Fraze and Corey Berry.
Welcome to the HeadRush Podcast. I'm Paul Fraze, and I played 11 years in the NFL. And our co-host, Corey Berry, rode professional rodeo for 9 years. And at the HeadRush Podcast, we talk about everything related to brain trauma and brain health and wellness. We focus on traumatic brain injury sustained through repeated head impacts, and we talk about repeated blast exposure, RBE, for our men and women who serve in the armed forces. We talk about TES, traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, and we cover how traumatic brain injuries can and will cause mental health issues such as depression, addiction, lack of executive function, memory loss, even suicide ideation, as well as degenerative neurological issues. Our mantra is how to cope and find hope, and we focus our energy on finding therapies and sharing hope through education and by raising awareness. Please like, subscribe, share, and help us get the word out of repeated head impacts. Corey?
And we are also the official podcast for the HeadRush Foundation.
For the HeadRush Foundation.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we got one of the greatest guests to ever come on the HeadRush Podcast. He is probably ranked up there as high. I think he has over 4 million followers. He's done tremendous amount of work with us brain injured people. And I bet you before I introduce him, we're going to have to ask him if he's ever been interviewed on a podcast by people actually affected by brain injury and repeated head impact.
Yeah, you're diagnosed TES, clinically.
Clinically.
TES.
So our guest is a physician, double board certified psychiatrist, award-winning researcher, 20-time national best-selling, I bet you it's 21 with the new book, author whose book have been translated into 50 languages, founder of the Amen Clinics with 11 locations nationwide. He has published over 95 scientific papers and hosted 19 national public television specials on brain health. He is named the web's #1 most influential mental health expert, and Washington Post called Dr. Amen the most popular psychiatrist in America. I'd almost say the world. Dr. Amen believes we are on the cusp of a new revolution in psychiatry. With nearly, I bet you he's over 300 brain scans, 300,000 brain SPECT scans on patients from 155 countries. His research reveals that most psychiatric disorders are not mental health issues at all, but they are brain health issues that steals people's minds. His guiding principle is simple: get your brain right and your mind will follow. His mission is to end mental health illness by creating a revolution in brain health. Dr. Amen, welcome to the HeadRush Podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so looking forward to our conversation.
Have you ever been interviewed by two brain injured people on a podcast before?
Many. Many. I see a lot. I did the big NFL study when the NFL was sort of not telling the truth about traumatic brain injury in football. And it's just been so interesting. But I've become friends with many of them and have been on some of their podcasts.
Awesome. So it's a pleasure to meet you finally, Dr. Amen. I have been following your work for years. I know we're going to talk extensively about your studies with, involving NFL players and CTE, and I think it's over 400 scans at this point for NFL players. So really quick, about 3 years ago, dear friends from Texas called me, and they knew I was struggling with some, neurological issues, and they said, you have to watch this movie, Quiet Explosions. And I said, Quiet what? And they said, Quiet Explosions. And I watched it that night. And I've probably watched it about 10 times since. And so what that movie did for me was, and it gave me hope. I had seen the movie Concussion, with the movie about Mike Webster in his last final days, and I'm
With Will Smith.
with starring Will Smith as Dr. Amalo, but I just could not imagine shocking myself with my car battery to get some sleep at night. And apparently Mike Webster had to go through that in his final days. Anyway, but Quiet Explosions gave me hope. What you guys did, you and I know Dr. Gordon is one of your peers that you worked with in that movie. But can you tell us? I mean, I was exhilarated after watching that movie. It gave me such hope. Can you tell us how that movie came about? And also, it's kind of weird to intermix this, but I want to you to share about the SPECT scan while you're talking about the Quiet Explosions and how you've used it to advance your studies.
So I was actually a consultant on the movie Concussion, and Peter Landesman, who wrote it and directed it, wrote me in the script because he said, you offer hope. And then he wrote me out of the script because the movie ended up being about this David versus Goliath, Bennett Amalu versus the NFL. And I was not happy about that because it portrayed CTE without hope. And that's just the lie that is being perpetuated in our society. And, Boston University's done some great work on CTE, but all of their patients are dead. And all of my patients are alive. And we can tell if you are headed toward a CTE dementia-like process 20 or 30 years before you have any symptoms. And what I get really excited about is if you've been bad to your brain, and you just have to admit it, right? Playing football is a brain damaging sport. You should be in a rehabilitation program your whole career, and certainly as soon as you retire. And when Jerry Schur, who helped write and direct, produce Quiet Explosions, learned about my work, she said, please, will you be in the movie? And her husband, Alan, who had that severe brain injury, was also part of the movie. And I think it drove her passion. And a number of my patients, like Mark Rippon and Anthony Davis, the Hall of Fame running back from USC, were in the movie as well.
And that's again, you go back to hope and what you offered in that movie to people that are struggling. And I mean, the opening credits were talking about over 2 million damaged brains a year, or traumatic brain injuries. I think we've heard, we've talked about, is it up to like 3.5, 4 million a year annually?
That get concussions easy.
Right.
Well, but a concussion is a brain injury. What people often don't think of, your brain, so the physical functioning of your brain runs everything you do. And it's soft, about the consistency of soft butter, tofu, custard, somewhere between egg whites and Jell-O. And it's housed in a really hard skull that has many sharp, bony ridges. And helmets protect you against skull fractures. They do not protect you against brain damage because the brain floats in water. And so if you're running fast and all of a sudden you stop, your brain goes like this, no matter what kind of helmet you have inside your skull. And it hurts the front part of your brain, which is involved with things like focus and forethought, judgment, impulse control, organization, planning, empathy, learning from the mistakes you make. But it also damages the temporal lobes because they sit right behind a very sharp bony ridge. And so if you're whacking helmets, your temporal lobes get hurt, and they house some really important structures like the amygdala, which is involved in your fear response, your hippocampus, which is involved in mood and memory. And, you know, and if I was God, I'm not, I would have put bumper guards around that very sharp bony ridge, because it creates a lot of unhappiness, a lot of depression, a lot of anger, a lot of stress. And it's this very basic idea. When your brain works right, you work right. And when it doesn't, you struggle, not because you want to, not because you have a bad character, but because your brain is hurt. And, you know, I'm trained as a psychiatrist, and I often go, so why are psychiatrists the only medical doctors who never look at the organ they treat, which is clearly insane, right? I mean, I'm a psychiatrist, so I know how to diagnose crazy, and that is truly crazy, because when you start looking at the brain in your patients, you realize, oh, it was when they fell down a flight of stairs when they were 3 that ended up causing behavior problems when the child's 8. Or it's the car accident where they were T-boned. And even though they didn't lose consciousness, they had a whiplash that damaged their brain. Or it's the fall, it's the fight, it's the 4-wheeling accident, it's the skiing accident, or it's the years of playing football where you have hundreds, if not more, subconcussive blows.
I love the Anthony Davis, the Notre Dame killer that was featured. One of your patients and was featured in Quiet Explosions. He talks about, I don't care if you have a tank surrounding your brain is still going to move and shake, and you go knock against the bony ridges of your brain. That was the first time I'm 60 years old. I watched that movie 3 years ago. It's really the first time I understood that there's bony ridges on the inside of my skull. I thought it was like velvety soft, and the brain had a wonderful little cushion, probably had a comforter around it. And but no. Yeah.
So, Ziggy, can you, before we go further, I know you probably watched some of our episodes, and you know I was a professional bareback rider. I know a few rodeo cowboys that's been through the Amen Clinic. And one of them is, he thinks you're just a superstar and been through it. We'll call him a cowboy friend for medical purposes. And I want to show the people, and this is an older SPECT scan, but I want to show them what a SPECT scan looks like. Can you walk us through what you're seeing right there, doctor, and tell us a little bit about it?
So SPECT stands for Single Photon Emission Computed Tomography. It's a nuclear medicine study that looks at blood flow, mitochondrial function, so the little energy powerhouses in the brain. It looks at how the brain works, and it basically tells us 3 things: good activity, too little, or too much. And then our job is to balance it. And the image on the bottom is looking at the outside surface of the brain, which should be full, even, and symmetrical. The color doesn't matter, it's the shape. And you can see those areas about halfway down his temporal lobes.
Hmm.
They're hurt. They're clearly hurt. They're not what we would see in a healthy scan. The images on the top, the red, white, and blue ones, is blue is average activity, red is the top 15%, and white is the top 8%. And most of the activity should be in the bottom, in an area called the cerebellum. His basal ganglia is busy, so he probably worried and somewhat anxious. But the images on the top, that's not really the problem for him. It's the images on the bottom that shows brain trauma, especially in his right and left temporal lobes. And they can be better. I mean, I think that's the most exciting message. So of all the books I've written, whenever I sign one for someone, I always sign it with hope, because what we've seen is we can take bad brains, hurt brains, troubled brains, and make them better. Now, if you don't care about your brain, you could clearly make it worse. But the hope message, like Anthony Davis, I first met him 19 years ago. And I met him because he was driving on the freeway in Southern California, and he got confused. He actually pulled over on the freeway, and he had no idea where he was or where he was going. And he called one of his friends, who was a doctor in the pharmacy school at USC, who said, "You need to go see Dr. Amen." So at 54, he had memory problems, he had temper problems, he had periods of confusion. And he's a very strong person. You don't want someone like Anthony Davis having temper problems. It's
Right.
bad for him and bad for whoever he might be mad at. And he just did everything I asked him to do. And mostly it was a multiple vitamin fish oil and a brain boost that works in 6 different ways. And then teaching him alcohol is not a health food. We have to get him to a healthy weight. And, you know, it was like, avoid things that hurt your brain and do things that help. Here's the plan. And 3 months later, he's dramatically better. And he's like, "Hey, doc," he's my second NFL player, but he's like, "Hey, doc, we have to write the commissioner." So we wrote to the commissioner and we told him that many NFL players likely have troubled brains, but we could make them better. And the commissioner never wrote back. And then he invited me to speak to the Los Angeles chapter of the NFL Players Association. And I went, gave a talk. Many of the players I idolized when I was a child were there, and they clearly had dementia. And I was horrified at the meeting. One of the players asked me the same question 6 times. Wow. And I'm like, somebody has got to do a brain imaging study, because the NFL was just in denial. And I don't know how else to say it. I think that's the kindest way I can say it. And if you grow up Roman Catholic like I did, as soon as you go, somebody should do something, rather than seeing the index finger, you see the 3 pointing back at you, and it's like, you could do something about it. And, you know, I own the clinics, I own the cameras, and I'm like, "Hey, Anthony, do you think the NFL Players Association in Los Angeles would partner with us and help me get players?" And we had no problem getting players to sign up. And we did the first and largest study on active and retired NFL players. We published a study in 2011 on our first 100 players, high levels of damage. It's just like, own it. You have a problem. But then, you know, and I didn't plan on, you know, I'm like, okay, I'll do 30 players. But my problem was, because I love football, is I just fell in love with my players. And then as I saw the damage, you know, I've spent my whole career as a psychiatrist and a brain health doctor, not telling people they're messed up. That would not be a fun thing for me. I spent my whole career taking troubled brains and making them better. So I wondered, could I help these people be better? And so we put all of our players, multiple vitamin, fish oil, brain boost that works in 6 different ways, taught them to love their brain, avoid things that hurt it, do things that help it, which we can talk about. 80% of our players showed improvement in as little as 2 months. And we published that study. So when I hear all the stuff about CTE, it's chronic, progressive, untreatable. When I was growing up, my dad had 2 favorite phrases. The first one was no matter what you asked him, the answer was no. The second one, excuse me for saying this, was bullshit. It was like bullshit, no. That was the mantra I grew up with. So when I heard this sort of CTE message, it's chronic, progressive, and untreatable, I'm like, bullshit. It's absolutely not true. But you have to be aggressive in treating them, and we cannot let neuropathologists run the messaging around CTE. That's just dumb, because don't remember the NFL way of killing yourself? Shoot yourself in the chest so you can donate your brain to science.
Junior
And I'm
Seau.
like,
Right.
absolutely not. It's like, scan the brain, stop doing things that hurt it, and let's get it healthy.
If you've been told it's all in your head, but deep down you know something is wrong, listen closely. Brain fog, depression, anxiety, irritability, even PTSD, these are not just mental issues. They may be signals of neuroinflammation and hormonal disruption, root causes that traditional medicine often ignores. At the Millennium Health Centers, founded by Dr. Mark Gordon, they have helped veterans, athletes, and everyday people restore brain function using a medical process called the Millennium Protocol. Take their free brain health assessment at tbihelpnow.org and discover if inflammation, not weakness, is holding you back. You're not broken, you're unbalanced, and balance can be restored. That you basically answered the next question.
2 questions.
Right. Well,
But-
we've heard you say many times, you do not have to settle with the brain you have now. You can make it better. Whether it's your TED Talk, whether it's the thousands of podcasts you do, whether the 19 publication, the whatever.
All the shorts, everything.
So I've also seen you talk about Pollyanna, and I'm a huge fan of the Glad game, right? And Corey is more like, you know what? I don't know if you can heal my brain, but I just don't want to get worse. I just don't want to get worse. And because he is clinically diagnosed TES, the traumatic encephalopathy syndrome.
Probable CTE. But I'm on the other side of the fence also. I don't know if I can get my brain back where I was when I was in my 20s and not bang. Well, I was banging my head in my. I was banging my. Hell, I was banging my head when I was 7.
Your whole life.
So, I mean, I just thought about that, but I don't think I could get all of my functions back. But and I'm on with we're both do the Brainwell program through Mizell and Mark Gordon, the hormones and the Millennium Health Protocol. And we go through all of that. And so I'm trying to keep the best brain I got now. Is it going to get healthy and better and make me happy again? I don't know. I know. Oh, I almost said his name. Our cowboy friend. He kept saying, you need to get a scan. Scans are everything. And I said,
You got to see the blood flow. You got to know.
Right. And it's like, well, I'm on disability. I can't afford to go down there and pay that. It's not and from what I understand, insurance don't cover it. And it's like, well, I really can't afford to go do that. So what's the other thing? And then he started talking about chapter 20. He lives by chapter 20 in a 6-week insulin sensitivity, and get to chapter 20
and change your life, or change your brain, change your life.
Right. He 100%. He goes, what was his story? He got the book. He read through like chapter 23, and his dog ate the book. And he said, but I got what I needed. I needed the spiritual, and I needed the chapter 20 superfoods. But he would love to get another SPECT scan and compare it to what he has now. But
he's very strict. He's one of those guys that took what you said literally
gospel.
As gospel. Anyway, so we've had 15 to 20,000 repeated head impacts as a bareback bronc rider and an NFL player that had 20 years of organized football. And this is a loaded question. What do those impacts do to us, and how the heck do we get our brain health back?
Well, it's bad for you, right? I mean, I imagine the bareback stuff is chronic whiplash. You just had so many of them, and that tears blood vessels and shears neurons, and clearly is not good. But the brain is such a wonderful organ, in that if you put it in a healing environment, it can be better. Now, will it ever be like when you were in your 20s? Well, my brain's never going to be like it was in my 20s. And it can be better, though. And that's what you want to strive for. Every day, you are making your brain better with your habits, or you're making it worse. And so, I'm going to be 72 in a couple of months. And I went in a sauna this morning. I do red light therapy. I have my little red light therapy cap.
Is that a V light?
It's an in light.
Okay. I'm getting the V light.
I like both of them. And, I have hyperbaric oxygen at work, and I go in on a regular basis. Why? Because I want a healthy brain, and I don't drink alcohol. And it's like, well, you can't have any fun. And I'm like, well, who has more fun? The person with the good brain or the person with the bad brain? I guarantee you it's the person with the good brain. And, I want you to love your brain and then treat it with respect. I was at the White House. I'm working on this National Brain Health Revolution campaign with the White House Faith Office. I'm deeply honored and grateful to do it. And I was having lunch with at the White House, and I got to sit next to Lisa Trout. And Lisa and her husband Kenny own Justify, the last Triple Crown winner. And I think he sold for like $75 million.
He sold for.
And I'm like, would you ever give him junk food?
Oh.
And she chuckled. She said, no. I said, would you ever get him drunk? And she went, no. I said, would you ever get him stoned? And she just looked at me like I was so stupid. And then I'm like, why? He would never live up to his potential.
Wow.
So why do we eat junk food? Or why do we drink alcohol? Or why do we get stoned? When we're going to damage the organ that runs everything, and then not live up to our potential. And that's what my life has been about, teaching people to love and care for their brain. And as a psychiatrist, I hate the term mental illness. It shames people, it's stigmatizing, and it's flat out wrong. These are brain health issues. You get your brain healthy, your mind is going to be better. And always comes down to cost. Well, I can't afford to get a scan. And I just go, well, what is it costing you to have a brain that isn't as good as it could be? And, the estimate is anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 a year. And so, we think of it as an investment, and obviously not everybody can do it. But everybody can go to the library and check out Change Your Brain, Change Your Life. And that book has changed so many people's lives.
This episode of the HeadRush Podcast is brought to you by our personal doctor and team of doctors, Dr. Mizelle DeMayo, and she's with the Paradise Behavioral Health, and we are in the
Brainwell program, which is also part of the Millennium Health Center. Dr. Mark Gordon, you've seen him on Joe Rogan and even on our show, the HeadRush Podcast. And hormones. And Mizelle is awesome. We love her.
She's our doctor of psychiatry. She works the Mark Gordon program with the hormones, and she adds her twist of genetics, and it basically is melding two wonderful mediums together, and we're getting great help from Dr. Mizelle DeMayo.
So please check out our website at paradisebehavioral.com. Look up the Brainwell program. Get involved.
She's sponsoring us. They're sponsoring us for the next year, so we are excited to have them on board and shout the good news to everybody that is watching these broadcasts. So,
is she helping you, Paul?
Absolutely.
She's helping me. So go check her out. ParadiseBehavioralHealth.com. And we got both of them. We got Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain, and Change Your Brain and Change Your Life up there. We got them both right here on the bookshelf. And that chapter 20 is just huge. And so you talk about red light therapy, you talk about hyperbarics, and the best, and I love what you're saying. I really do, because we just talked to Dr. Koffler
at University of Pittsburgh.
University of Pittsburgh, and I've asked Jeremy Tanner, and I've asked Chris Nowinski, and I've sat down with Mark Gordon a few times, and as you know, we got direct contact with Gordon, and it's so funny because Gordon's, it's all inflammation, and it's all, and we just asked Koffler, does repeated head impacts cause mental health? Well, we can't correlate that just yet. We need more studies. And I'm like, if I go bang my head against that brick wall 30 times, is it going to cause me to go dingy?
That is complete. I mean, he's just not paying attention to the research, because traumatic brain injury is a major cause of psychiatric illness. It's a major cause of depression, addiction, anxiety disorders, suicide. I mean, there's just no question in my mind. And, based on the hundreds of thousands of people we've seen, the more you hit your head, the more likely you are to struggle with your mood, with your memory, with your relationships, with your money, with your temper. It's just so obvious.
Mm-hmm. Getting back to some of the therapies or modalities, do you already held up your red light therapy or photobiomodulation? I guess that's how you explain it. And what about other TMS, neurofeedback, supplements, talk therapy? And we're going to talk about diet in the next question, but EMDR. We've heard you talk about EMDR in podcasts. Do they really, how can they help?
So, I always think of my patients in four big circles. It's what's the biology, the physical functioning of your brain? What's the psychology? How do you think? What's your development? What's the social circle? How are you getting along with the people in your life? How's your money? How's your job? And the spiritual circle, which is why the heck do you camp? What is your deepest sense of meaning and purpose? And so the interventions are always around those four circles. So I have one of my basketball players who I just love dearly, who did my podcast, Julius Randle, the NBA superstar, the power forward for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He first came to see me and he was smoking pot. He was depressed. He was about to get divorced. And I'm like, I am going to be your best investment. But it was all four circles. He had stopped smoking pot. So the first treatment intervention, stop doing things that hurt your brain. Alcohol, marijuana, magic mushrooms, whatever. Not a fan of any of that stuff. And then you have to eat right. I mean, it was a huge part of him playing well was making sure his blood sugar is stable. And then I put him on a group of supplements, multiple vitamin, omega-3 fatty acid, fish oil, a brain boost to help repair some of the damage from the marijuana use, something we make called Happy Saffron. Saffron in 35 randomized controlled trials showed that it's equally effective to antidepressants. But rather than sort of steal your sexual interest and performance, it enhances it, which is why I got so interested in it. Good for your mood and your love life. And their 5 studies show that it enhances memory in Alzheimer's patients. So I'm like, memory, mood, sex. I think I'm going to take that. So I put him on that. And he has red light therapy. He has hyperbaric oxygen. I'm a fan of neurofeedback for many of my NFL players. We did that. I like TMS if someone's depressed or they're really anxious. It just helps reboot, reset your brain. There's a new form of TMS I like. It's a 1-day procedure where you're there 10 hours, but they actually stimulate your brain 20 times. So I think you're going to hear more and more about that coming up in the near future. You know, I like anything that can reset or balance the brain. So, but that's all in the biological circle. I love teaching my patients not to believe every stupid thing they think. It's every day we win, have a good day, or we learn that we're curious and we're not furious. And I teach my patients the rule of 12. It's, you know, you are a flexible problem solver. So in Julius Randle's sort of visualization, I am a flexible problem solver who does not get upset until the 12th thing has gone wrong. He used to spend a lot of money because of all the technical fouls that he would get. And since I've treated him the last 2 years, he's only gotten 2. So I'm a good investment. And I thought both of them were unfair because he stopped arguing with reality, which is, you know, the ref's not going to change his mind. If you want them to review the play, get your coach to do that. Stop arguing with the refs. And then he had trauma. We talked about it on our podcast. He had lots of trauma when he was young. And we've done 70 EMDR sessions where we go into the trauma, process it, so we can get the past out of the present. And I love that so much. In the social circle, doing better with his wife than ever before. We also talk about being a good dad. And he grew up in the church, and that was very important to him. And we often talk about two Bible verses. I went to Oral Roberts University. That's where I went to medical school. So I learned medicine in the context of my faith. Romans 12:1 and 2, in view of God's mercy, offer your body as a living sacrifice. Love that term, living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. That is your true worship. Romans 12:1. Romans 12:2, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And then you can test to see if it fits God's good, perfect, and pleasing will. And you go, well, what's God's will? Go to John 10:10. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come that you might have life abundantly. And so we take each thought captive. And is this the thief? Is this a thought that comes to kill, steal, and destroy you? Or is it a thought that leads to abundant life? And no matter what your religious beliefs, you're on the planet. You are not here by random chance. You are on the planet to make the world better. And are you living consistently with the purpose you're on earth? And so I do an exercise with all of my patients called the one-page miracle. What do you want? Relationships, work, money, physical, emotional, spiritual health. And is your behavior getting you what you want? So I think of all four circles all the time. And it really comes down, the national brain health revolutions can be around one question. Is what I'm doing now, talking to you guys, good for my brain or bad for it? And does it make the world better? And the answer is it's good for my brain and it makes the world better. So I'm having a good time.
So I'm a preacher's kid, and my former she's a graduate of Oral Roberts University as well. One thing I struggle with is the negative thoughts. The don't believe. Well, the ants. I've read that many times, but and then the don't believe every stupid thought you think. Can you kind of expound on that, please? I need help.
Well, and thoughts come from all sorts of places. Thoughts come from your parents, so your thoughts may not even be yours. They come from the voices of your mom and dad, your siblings, your friends, your foes, the news you watch, the music you listen to. And just because you have a thought has nothing to do with whether or not it's true, whether or not it's helpful. Thoughts are automatic, they just happen, and they lie a lot. And taking each thought captive. And so if you have a lot of negative thoughts, what I would want you to do is just write them down and go, well, is that true? Do I absolutely know that that's true? How does that thought make me feel? Awful. How would I feel if I didn't have the thought? Just fine. And then take the original thought. Maybe you have an example and I could work on it with you. And we just flip it to the opposite and see if the opposite of the thought you're having isn't also true. It really will blow your mind, but you don't have to believe every stupid thing you think. I mean, I'll give you an example. We have a German Shepherd who's gorgeous and I love him so much, but he loves my wife way more than me. Like if I come home, he's like, hey, dude. And then he leaves. If she comes home, he just comes out of his body so excited. And, I was seeing patients in my office, and whenever she's not here, he comes and, lays by my feet because I know he loves me. And so I just had the thought, well, if I killed my wife, he would get really excited when I came home.
Oh, gosh.
And I'm like, no, we're not going to kill her. So the dog will love you more. So I have a white shepherd and she loves me more. And so we can balance out my need for approval. But just because I had that thought doesn't mean I need to attach to it. Doesn't mean I need to do anything. I'm not a bad person. Thoughts are just thoughts. And if you, being a preacher's kid, go, is this a thought from the devil? Is this a thought that comes to steal, kill, and destroy me? Or is this a thought that gives me abundant life? Just that simple filter, you begin to train your mind to go to a better place. And there's nowhere in school where they teach you not to believe every stupid thing you think.
If you or someone you love is living with Parkinson's, MS, or symptoms associated with CTE, this is worth knowing. Ambio Life Sciences offers a novel alternative medicine called Ibogaine and operates the only Ibogaine clinic in the world for people with neurodegenerative disorders.
Many are reporting meaningful improvements in their quality of life after Ibogaine treatment. Interested? You can learn more about Ibogaine and apply at ambio.life.
This episode of the HeadRush Podcast is brought to you by the Patrick Risha CTE Awareness Foundation. Their goal is to spread awareness about the dangers of RHI, repetitive head impacts, after losing their son, Patrick, to CTE. Sadly, there are too many like Patrick that have lost their families, jobs, and sometimes their lives. And this foundation is working hard to stop the devastation that can come from not protecting the brain. This foundation provides parents of school-age children with information about the dangers of sports, concussive sports, and activities which involve head trauma.
They advertise on social media, print media, and billboards. Please follow them on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok and share their ads with others. And please visit their website, stopcte.org, to find ways to help people recognize the disease if confronted with it in their family, and how to prevent the suffering that can come to families when a brain is damaged. The website has medical forms to take to doctor's visits and advocacy letters if you want to help make change in your community. And their most recent campaign is geared up to help coaches build brain-healthy teams. You can use the information on stopcte.org website to understand CTE, live with CTE, and prevent CTE. Please visit. Thank you. And don't knock it. Stopcte.org.
Yeah.
Well, and see, that's me. I got vestibular issues. I got optical nerve damage. I got memory loss. I got barometric pressure, makes me go haywire. And so a lot of times I'll do something. Well, I talked about it on the podcast. I've been a hands-on cowboy my whole life. I'm a master in nothing but a jack of all trades. I can do concrete, lay brick, plumbing, build fence, build a barn. I can do so much, operate equipment. And I was, here's a prime example. I was cleaning the P-traps in the sink. And so I took the P-trap out and I dumped the P-trap down the sink. And then I ran the water and cleaned the P-trap out. And then I grabbed a paper towel, dried it off, set it to the side, and then I washed my hands. And I was like, I'm the biggest moron in the world. How stupid can someone be? And it just pissed me off because I just did all that. That P-trap needed to be underneath for me to run the water. Now I got water flowing all over the floor. I've made a huge mess. And I'm so negative on myself, or if I go do something and I trip or something, it's like, why are you such an idiot?
If you had someone you loved, would you go, you're a moron?
Wow.
Me?
Yeah.
Me? Probably.
Oh, no, you.
And then I would go, if you would, I'm like, all right, that's not helpful. Right. I have this hockey player who I really love, and he's so hard on himself. And I'm like, tell me about your best coaches. And his best coaches noticed what he did right and taught him when he could be better. And I said, tell me about your worst coaches. Notice what he did wrong and never let him forget it. And so I want you to yourself to be a good parent, a good teacher, a good coach. And when you make a mistake, all of us do, you win or you learn. And the rule of 12, which is you can't be upset until the 12th thing has gone wrong, because you're a flexible problem solver. And, I think bareback writing, I mean, you have solved probably so many problems in your career that when you nurture that part of you, well, you feel good. When you beat yourself up, it's like you're being abusive, like a bad dad. And it's just not helpful. And ultimately, you want to be helpful to yourself, because the kinder you are to yourself, the kinder you're going to be to other people. And May 16th, I don't know if this will come out before that, but May 16th, in honor of our 250th birthday, is called Good Neighbor Day. And I'm one of the spokespeople for Good Neighbor Day. And what we're launching is 250 million acts of kindness across the United States. I'm very excited about this. But what I realized is when I'm thinking too much about me, I suffer. But when I think about helping other people, the worry part in my brain settles down. And I feel so much happier.
Yep, that's great.
And I can agree with that, because when my new goal, when I got in a major car wreck in 2022, and for like 4 months, I couldn't have a light on, I couldn't have a TV on, I couldn't do nothing. I was in sheer pain for months. And you want to talk about suicide ideation? Oh, man. It was, my wife would tell you right now, for the first 3 months, she wouldn't know if I'd be alive tomorrow. And I forgot where I was going with this.
And I know you didn't have that suicide ideation before the accident.
And I went to a therapy, and she goes, I no longer can work. I no longer can be a cowboy. I no longer can do everything I enjoyed because my brain wasn't right. And she goes, we got to find you a new goal. And my goal was to walk my daughter down the aisle. And so I worked every day until I walked her down the aisle.
And you had the first dance.
And had the first dance. And I was able to do that. And I went back, and she goes, okay, what's your new goal now? Because I texted her, I said, I'm in trouble. I need a new goal before things get horrible. And it became the podcast, helping others, bringing awareness, and doing all of this. So this is my new goal, and I work every day to try to help people. And I've talked to veterans, I've talked to athletes, I've talked to many people, and talked a few off the ledge.
Right. Yeah, you have.
And at the same point, on Friday, I can be on that ledge.
So,
well, let me say this, because if we're dealing with an audience of people who've had head trauma, is suicidal thoughts come up a lot. And what I tell my patients, it's a permanent solution to a temporary feeling. But if you kill yourself, you've just taught your loved ones that's how grown-ups solve problems. You've just increased the risk of your children killing themselves 500%.
Wow.
And that is not something you want to do.
No.
And I think it's so important because when you were depressed, it's like your brain got in a tunnel and the tunnel had no windows and no doors. It's just darkness. And you don't see the impact of your choices on other people. And because you begin to think, oh, they'll be better off if I'm dead. And it's like, no, they'll be better off if you're better. And so that's the thing to work toward. But, you know, most therapists, they won't speak to you with that level of honesty. But I have dealt with so many patients whose parents or loved ones committed suicide, and it is such a massive hurt. Plus, you're modeling something you don't want to model.
That's powerful.
Well, and I refuse to kill myself. I excuse my French and excuse, I know a lot of people say it. Suicide ain't an excuse for nothing. It says it in the Bible, and I'm not going to do that to my family, leave my wife alone, leave my daughter alone. And if you commit suicide, you're taking the cheesy way out. And I still get suicide ideation today. It's still current. My hormones are up to par. I just met with my Zell. My cortisol's still a little high, but my hormones are up to par. My genetics. But I got chronic inflammation, and I got to figure out a way to get that inflammation out. And my vestibular coach, she'll touch the back of my neck and go, dude, you're hot. Your inflammation's crazy. And it's trying to figure it out. And yeah, I wish I could afford, but like I said, I'm on disability. I wish I could go get that SPECT scan and see someone like Dr. Amen. That you have such that positivity. I listen to your shorts and I get excited and I just wish I could train myself to go, dude.
We're down about 8 minutes left.
I don't care.
We're gonna go rapid question because we have 3 topics that I want to cover really quick. You include in your chapter, your books, chapter 20, change your brain, change your life, superfoods, and then you talk about it in section 7 in change your brain, change your pain. Can food really make a difference, Dr. Amen?
There's a linear correlation between the number of fruits and vegetables you eat a day and your level of happiness. The nutritionists at Amen Clinics have more successes than almost any of our other providers. It's crazy. I had one patient who was chronically suicidal, had ECT, electroconvulsive therapy, 3 times. Had been on like 40 different medications. We put him on an elimination diet because for some people, whether it's gluten, corn, soy, dairy, their brains are very sensitive to it, increases inflammation. And so we put him on an elimination diet, eliminated gluten, dairy, corn, soy, artificial dyes, and sweeteners and sugar. And he was better. 3 weeks later, he's so much better. He's like, Doc, it's like the fog has lifted. And I'm so excited. I said, so let's start adding things back just to see if we could see what the culprit is. And so we added back gluten. Nothing happened. He was just fine. We added back dairy. Nothing happened. He was fine. We added back corn. 20 minutes later, he said he had a vision of a gun in his mouth pulling the trigger.
Wow.
I'm like, well, you're going to have to break up with corn. He said, but I love popcorn. I said, but it doesn't love you back. Why would you ever put something in your body that abuses you? And it's one of the major principles in Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain in the food chapter is, you know, you're in a relationship with food. You don't want it to be habitual. You eat it because you eat it. You want it to be thoughtful because your brain is 2% of your body's weight, but uses 20 to 30% of the calories you consume. And if you consume pro-inflammatory calories, you're much more likely to be depressed. And so you only want to love food that loves you back.
Last thing about food, my dear friend, she's telling me about boiling avocado seeds and boiling cloves and eugenol from the cloves, and she wanted me to ask the question about aloe vera. Have you seen a lot of? She's talking about they kind of say it lowers the inflammation. It's like acts like a radiator for the body. Or have you heard of studies with aloe vera?
I have not. So it sounds interesting. I'd like to learn more about that, but personally, I've not.
We'll go on to.
Now, my big thing is, and this is huge for me because I didn't find faith until I was in my mid 40s. My dad, he wasn't a believer, but he wasn't a non-believer. He just didn't care. I love today. He would say, look at the beautiful morning. Look at the beautiful trees. And now, as a matter of fact, he called the Bible gobbledygook. But we would go to Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner, and he would very respectfully, those that want to pray, pray. Those that don't, we will sit here and wait for those that want to pray. So he wasn't horrible. But I found faith in my 40s thanks to a preacher here in Texas that was in Oregon. And I know the answer to this in my heart. Does faith help us? Is there a difference in recovery for people with faith?
Yes. People of faith get better faster. People of faith, when they get depressed, they get better faster. They have less anxiety. There is less addiction. We have a brand new program. We're doing 100 pilots around the country called the Amen Whole 4, where we get groups, especially in faith-based organizations, healthy. And what we've noticed is there's less alcohol, there's less marijuana, there's less loneliness and isolation. And, it just never worked for me that we're here by random chance, that I believe we're having this discussion because there is a creator and creative design in the universe. And that when I die, it's not the end of it, that, my essence, my energy, my soul will go on. And I'm very excited about it. I'm not going to encourage death today, but I have hope for whatever is next.
Millions live with depression, anxiety, fatigue, or emotional chaos, believing it's permanent. It's not. The Millennium Protocol targets hidden inflammation and hormone disruption caused by trauma, stress, and time. Created by Dr. Mark Gordon, featured multiple times on Joe Rogan and the HeadRush Podcast, plus the documentary movie Quiet Explosions, this approach has transformed lives once written off as hopeless. Visit tbihelpnow.org and take the 10-question brain health assessment. Healing is possible. Your story isn't over. Let's begin again with your brain.
You talk about neuroplasticity being neither good or bad, and it just is. But you say neuroplasticity doesn't care if it helps or hurts you. It simply follows your lead. Can you explain this?
Well, you teach your brain how to behave, that if you're negative and you allow those thoughts to build ruts in your brain, you're going to be chronically negative. So you're teaching your brain to be negative. If you're positive, if you play the glad game, if every day you go, hey, today is going to be a great day, or when you go to bed at night, you go, what went well? Your brain builds those pathways, and you can learn to be much more positive over time, or you can learn to be much more negative over time. Like, say you have the news on, you know, 12 hours a day. Well, the news is negative. It's purposefully that way to hook you, and it's going to have a negative impact on you.
I barely drink alcohol. I won't say I don't, but I may have one drink every 6 months. I'm not and I don't do marijuana. I don't do any illegals. But I just love what you just said, because you explained me to a T very easy. Is I used to be, when I was rodeoing, I was most positive. If you told me I couldn't do something, you better watch the hell, because here I'm going to do it. And I still have that a little bit in me. But here lately, I've become more isolated and more negative. And, I've always been the kind of guy that, you know, I hope for the best, but I expect the worst. And the reason for that is when I owned my trucking company, if I had engine problems, let's just hope it's a fuel line, but I better expect that $15,000 rebuild. Just in case. I don't want to just be demolished when they tell me I need a rebuild. And what you just said, and going to bed and going, what went well today? I've never done that. And when I wake up in the morning, I don't go, man, this is going to be a great day. It's kind of like I look outside and go, I wonder how today's going to go. What's going to affect me today? Am I going to yell at my wife? Am I going to want to kick the dog, beat the cat? Am I, and God, I need to learn some positivity. I need that Amen brain, that Amen treatment of positivity, because my therapist, it was funny. I was so negative, and I was like, I'm so tired of this, and I'm tired of dealing with what I'm dealing with. I've been fighting it. Well, I got diagnosed with cognitive nerve damage in 1998. And I've been dealing with it my whole life since then. And I get so tired of fighting it that, it's like, God, please give me a break.
But yet here you are 27 years later.
That's right.
And you're doing a podcast that's helping people. You're asking smart questions. If you just do that one exercise, what went well today? In 3 weeks, your mood is going to be much better. That's what the research says. And I've been doing it 15 years. Every night when I go to bed, I say a prayer, and then I go, what went well today? And I go hour by hour in my schedule, just looking for what I liked about the day. And it sets your dreams up to be more positive. And 6 years ago, you remember we were going through COVID, and in about 2 weeks, my 91-year-old dad died. And it was the worst day of my adult life. And it was a lot of trauma that day. And when I went to bed that night, I went, what went well today? And, the supervising voice goes, really? We're going to do that today? But because it was my habit, because it's what I had done for a decade, my mind immediately went to an interaction between my mother and the police officer. And it was very funny, because she's like, Mrs. Amon, we have to do an investigation because he died at home. And she goes, do you think I was cheating on him? Do you think I had him killed? And I mean, it was just so hysterically funny. And then my mind went to all the texts I got from his friends on how much they loved him, and my friends, how much they loved me. And then I went to holding his hand before the mortuary took him away, and it was just so soft. And then I went to sleep. Why? because I build habits to be able to deal with the worst days of my life, but I never live there. If you have hope, if you have faith, you realize you're not alone, that when we die, it's not the end, and it's all going to be okay. And having that mindset, and during the pandemic, I must have prayed the serenity prayer 500 times. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can,
and the
wisdom to know the difference. This is agency and hope. And we just published this monster study on 6,000 patients with hope. And when you have low frontal lobe, you have low hope, which is why you shouldn't hit soccer balls with your forehead. But hope is tomorrow can be better, and I have a role in it. And if you just do that one exercise, what went well today before bed, write to me in 3 weeks, because I would just love for you to do it, and I would love to hear the result.
You just answered our last question that we ask our guests to give hope, a word of hope, to close it out. So thank you. Thank you. And if you want to expound on that, please do. My last question, and really quick before you answer that, my last question, have you ever, in the 15 years you've been doing this exercise, not found something that went well today? No.
You know, my dad used to say he's never had a bad day in his life.
Right.
Just bad moments. And that's how my dad taught
Plenty
me.
of those, but even days when I get attacked for my work, because that's happened a lot.
No.
There's still awesome parts of the day. And one of my NFL players who read sort of a hate piece on me, he came into my office. He goes, you know, they only try to tackle the person with the ball.
I tried to tackle Eric Dickerson one time. Chin strap up against the helmet twisted. Yeah. He went down, but not backwards.
Did you ever try to attack people without the ball?
Oh yeah. There was, it was, yeah. And I felt bad about it afterwards. So anyway, Dr. Eggman, anything else you want to share? And we could talk for hours and hours. I've seen some of your podcasts that go on 2 or 3 hours, but what a treat it's been.
We got to have him back on. This is awesome. I tell you, I think I just got an hour of therapy, Eamon style, and I really enjoy it. And and I got to say something. You talked about killing your wife for your dog. I've seen you and your wife in the hyperbaric chambers having your cuddling sessions. She's way too beautiful to do that.
Oh no, she's not dying. It's just thoughts. Thoughts just come into your head. You just don't have to believe the nonsense and laugh at it a little bit.
Well, this has been
well, it's been a joy for me to chat with both of you. You know, my work with traumatic brain injury and athletes has been very special to me. And, I really want to sort of break this idea that CTE is chronic, progressive, and untreatable because, like my dad would say, bullshit. No.
Well, you got a clinic right here in Frisco, Texas.
In Las Colinas. In Dallas.
Las Colinas, yeah.
Right. And I would love to go there someday and get the scan and all of that and do all the work. And,
Well, I didn't talk about our foundation. We have a foundation. It's called the Change Your Brain Foundation that raises money for research, education, and service for people who can't afford it. So if anybody's interested in donating, changeyourbrain.org. But we just finished a huge firefighter study because we haven't talked about firefighters, but they have a very high incidence of suicide and brain trauma and toxicity.
Was the
So
was the
perhaps through the
gentleman
foundation.
was the gentleman in the quiet explosions, the fireman that was survived the 9/11 tragedy? Was he one of your clients?
No.
Okay, but you mentioned that in quiet explosions too, about firefighting being such a toxic, dangerous, traumatic job. So.
Oh, and our first responders, our military, my hat goes off to them like there's no tomorrow. They're more, and I hate to say it this way, but I believe it core in my heart. When it comes to getting help, they deserve it more than I do. I'm strong enough, I'll take care of it, but get the help to the people that protect and save us. And, I just love how you and Gordon are on the same path. You both help first responders and veterans and everything. And I think that's just tremendous work. And I want to thank you so much. It's just, yeah. And that thing you just did with the firefighters, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I got a question. I think our cowboy friend said Dr. Johnson in California. Is he still with you, or he's the one that he saw?
The scans that you
awesome.
pulled, the scans that you pulled up earlier.
Right, the scans I pulled up earlier. Have you talked to any rodeo cowboys and seen any or done anything with them?
We have a number of them.
Yeah.
And it's not good news.
Yeah. But what went well today, doctor?
So what's worse? Okay, that scan I showed you, he told me that the doctor said that's one of the worst scans
He was saying it was worse than any NFL player he'd ever seen.
But some of the NFL players he's seen. What's worse? Is it rodeo?
It depends.
Right.
It depends. Right? That I have, athletes really evolve. One of the worst brains I've seen is a jockey's.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Because of the falls
Oh.
that they have. Yeah.
Wow.
But it can be better. That's the message I have to run, but it's the message that I want to leave people with. You are not stuck with the brain you have. You can make it better.
Love it. All right.
That's absolutely awesome. You are not stuck with the brain you have.
You can make it better, Corey Berry.
I would love to, but I just, it's kind of. What the one doctor asked me if I think it was Gordon. So when we heal you, will you go back to work? I said, well, if you can get me healed enough to go back to work, I'll definitely go back to work.
Well, all right.
But thank you so much for everything you do, Eamon. I really do appreciate it, Dr. Eamon. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on the HeadRush Podcast. Thank you for your positivity and everything you preach and everything you do for traumatic brain injury.
And we're not great about the social media stuff, but please go visit Dr. Eamon on Instagram. I think it's draamon.com, your medical.
AmonClinics.com.
Amon Clinics. Go there, please. We have it up on the screen right now, and he's got 11 clinics across the country. He's worked with people from, what is it? How many scans? Over 300,000, right? Probably.
Just about. It's not quite. Just about 300,000.
Well, we thank you. You've been very gracious with your time, and hopefully we get to do it again sometime soon. So
I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, it was absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
He gave me hope just on the positiveness of what went well
today. That went well today. That's what I'm going to say when I put my head on my pillow. What went well today?
Yeah.
Corey got a little hope.
Well, I think you got even a little hope from today, and if you didn't, you need to get knocked out.
No. Yeah. So it's absolutely been a pleasure. We're very, very fortunate to get Dr. Eamon on, and so
great episode.
Yeah.
So
stay alert,
stay alive. Have a beautiful day. We'll talk to y'all next time. Like, share, follow, subscribe, double tap, do whatever you need to do. Just
whatever those young kids do. So thank you.
thank you.
This podcast is for general information only and does not constitute the practice of medicine. The use of this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard and delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions.